Close your eyes and travel back 1500 years ago. In the great plaza of Tikal, thousands of people gather to watch the planets move across the sky. For them, astronomy is not just science, but life itself. Tonight you will fall asleep following the traces of this ancient wisdom. The Maya civilization was one of the most remarkable cultures in human history. For over 3,000 years they built magnificent cities, developed complex writing systems, and created art that still amazes us today. Their story begins around 2000 BCE in the tropical rainforests of Central America and continues until the Spanish conquest in the 16th century. This is the complete history of Maya civilization, told in a gentle rhythm that will carry you peacefully into sleep. From simple farmers to astronomers who rivaled any civilization on Earth, the Maya created a world of wonder. Let us begin this journey through time. The beginning. Early hunters and farmers. Around 8000 BCE, small groups of people lived in the forests of Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, and Honduras. These early people were hunters and gatherers. They moved from place to place following animals and gathering wild plants. Life was hard, but they survived following patterns that had existed for thousands of years. Around 3400 BCE, something important happened. People began to domesticate wild teosinte, the ancestor of modern corn. This was not sudden, but took centuries. Early farmers selected the best plants and slowly transformed wild grass into the crop that would become maize. The development of agriculture changed everything. For the first time, people could produce more food than they needed. This surplus allowed some people to do other work besides farming. The first craftsmen, priests, and leaders came from these early farming communities. By 2000 BCE, permanent villages appeared throughout the Maya region. These early settlements were small, usually no more than a few dozen families. Houses were simple, with thatched roofs and walls made of wood and mud. People raised their homes on platforms to protect them from flooding during the rainy seasons. The three crops that would feed Maya civilization for thousands of years were already being grown together. Maize provided carbohydrates, beans supplied protein, and squash offered vitamins. This combination created a balanced diet that could support much larger populations than hunting and gathering. Early villages grow larger. As Maya communities became more prosperous, their society became more complex. Villages grew larger and more permanent. Archaeological excavations show communities with hundreds of residents. These people lived in rectangular houses arranged around central plazas. The plazas served as gathering places for markets, ceremonies, and community meetings. This pattern of houses surrounding a central plaza would remain typical of Maya settlements for thousands of years. Pottery making advanced during this period. Early Maya ceramics were simple and used for cooking and storage. But as time passed, potters began to create more elaborate vessels, decorated with geometric patterns and animal designs. These decorations carried religious and symbolic meanings. Trade networks began to develop between different communities. Maya merchants carried goods hundreds of miles through jungle paths and across rivers. Obsidian from volcanic regions was traded for jade from the highlands and shells from the coast. This trade spread ideas and cultural practices across the Maya world. The first social hierarchies emerged during this time. While most Maya remained farmers living in simple houses, a class of nobles and priests began to appear. These early elites controlled trade, organized religious ceremonies, and accumulated wealth and power. Religious practices became more organized. The Maya believed that the world was alive with spiritual forces that needed to be honored. They developed rituals involving offerings of food, incense, and precious objects to their gods. The most important deities were associated with agriculture, particularly the rain god, who controlled the storms that watered their crops. The Maya began to build their first monuments during this period. These early structures were modest, but represented significant investment of labor. Simple pyramidal platforms served as bases for temples where priests performed ceremonies. Building these monuments required coordination that could only come from increasingly complex social organization. Astronomical observation became important. Farmers needed to know when to plant their crops, and priests needed to determine proper times for religious festivals. The Maya began to track the movements of the sun, moon, and planets carefully. This knowledge would eventually develop into the most sophisticated calendar system in the ancient world. The concept of sacred time began to emerge. The Maya believed that certain days were more favorable than others for different activities. Some days were good for planting, others for warfare, and still others for ceremonies. This belief in the cyclical nature of time would become central to Maya worldview. Writing may have begun to develop during this period. Simple symbols carved on pottery and painted on walls suggest that the Maya were beginning to experiment with ways to record information beyond oral tradition. Complex society emerges. Between 1000 and 400 BCE, Maya society became much more complex. Population growth accelerated dramatically. Archaeological surveys suggest that the Maya population increased several 100% during this period. This growth was made possible by improvements in agricultural techniques. The first major ceremonial centers were constructed during this time. These sites were not cities where people lived, but special places where scattered rural populations would gather for important events. The architecture of these centers established patterns that would be followed for centuries. Nakbe in Guatemala was one of the most important early ceremonial centers. Here Maya builders constructed pyramids over 40 meters tall using limestone blocks. Building these monuments required hundreds of workers and careful planning. This shows that Maya society now had powerful rulers who could organize large projects. The construction techniques developed at sites like Nakbe were sophisticated. Maya engineers learned to create stable foundations in tropical soil. They developed systems for moving heavy stones without wheels or large animals. They created precisely fitted joints between stone blocks that have lasted over 2,000 years. Art and sculpture advanced significantly. Maya artists began to carve elaborate reliefs on stone monuments, showing rulers in costume performing religious ceremonies. These early sculptures established artistic conventions that would remain consistent throughout Maya history. The social hierarchy became more pronounced. Archaeological evidence from burials shows increasing differences in wealth between different members of society. Elite individuals were buried with jade ornaments and elaborate pottery, while common people were interred with simple offerings. Warfare began to play a more important role. Fortifications appeared at some sites, and weapons became more sophisticated. However, warfare during this period was probably limited in scope, focusing on raids to capture prisoners for sacrifice rather than territorial conquest. Trade expanded to cover vast distances. Maya merchants established routes that connected the highlands with the lowlands, the interior with the coast, and the Maya region with other cultures. Goods included practical items like tools and raw materials, as well as luxury goods. The ball game became important during this period. Ball courts were constructed at major ceremonial centers, and the game took on deep religious significance. The Maya believed that the ball game reenacted the creation of the world and the struggle between life and death. Religious beliefs became more complex. The Maya pantheon expanded to include dozens of gods and goddesses, each with specific roles. Creation myths developed that explained how the gods made the world and created human beings. These stories would be passed down through oral tradition for centuries. The calendar system began to take shape. The Maya developed multiple calendar cycles that tracked different aspects of time. The solar calendar of 365 days was used for agriculture, while the sacred calendar of 260 days was used for religious ceremonies. These calendars worked together in complex patterns. Mathematical concepts advanced significantly. The Maya developed a base 20 number system that was more sophisticated than the decimal system used in most other cultures. They began to use positional notation, where the position of a number determined its value. The greatest achievements. The late pre-classic period marked the full flowering of early Maya civilization. During these 6 centuries, the Maya achieved many of their greatest innovations and built some of their most impressive monuments. This was when Maya civilization truly became one of the world's most sophisticated cultures. Writing became fully developed during this period. The Maya created a complete hieroglyphic writing system that could express any concept in their language. This writing system used hundreds of symbols that could represent sounds, words, or concepts. Maya scribes combined these symbols to create texts that recorded everything from historical events to religious prophecies. The earliest known Maya texts date to this period. Inscriptions on stone monuments record the names and deeds of rulers, the dates of important events, and religious ceremonies. These texts show that the Maya had developed a sophisticated understanding of history. El Mirador became the largest Maya site of this period. This massive complex in northern Guatemala covered over 25 square kilometers and housed tens of thousands of people. The pyramids at El Mirador were among the largest ever built in the Americas. The La Danta complex rose over 70 meters above the jungle floor. The scale of construction at El Mirador was unprecedented. Building the site required enormous labor forces and the ability to feed thousands of workers for decades. This demonstrates that Maya society had developed sophisticated administrative systems and powerful centralized authority. Urban planning became more sophisticated. Maya architects learned to design cities that could accommodate large populations while maintaining religious and political functions. Cities were laid out according to cosmological principles, with important buildings aligned to astronomical events. The calendar system reached full maturity. The Maya developed the long count calendar, which could track dates over periods of millions of years. This calendar was based on cycles within cycles, creating a system so complex and accurate that it could predict astronomical events with remarkable precision. The Maya calculation of the solar year was more accurate than the Julian calendar used in Europe during the same period. They determined that the solar year contained 365.2420 days, compared to the actual length of 365.2422 days. This level of accuracy was not achieved in Europe until the 16th century. Astronomical observation became increasingly sophisticated. Maya astronomers built observatories and created detailed records of planetary movements, eclipse cycles, and other celestial events. They discovered that Venus has a cycle of 584 days and could predict when this planet would appear as morning or evening star. Art reached new heights during this period. The murals at San Bartolo, painted around 100 BCE, represent some of the finest artistic achievements in Maya history. These paintings show complex mythological scenes with incredible detail and skill. The artists used sophisticated techniques and employed a rich palette of colors. The San Bartolo murals tell the story of Maya creation myths and the adventures of the hero twins, legendary figures who would become central to Maya literature and religion. These paintings show that Maya mythology had already developed into a complex system of stories. Religious practices became increasingly elaborate. Rulers performed bloodletting ceremonies in which they pierced their tongues and other body parts with obsidian blades. The blood was collected on bark paper and burned as offerings to the gods. These rituals were believed to open doorways to the spirit world. Human sacrifice became more common and elaborate. Archaeological evidence suggests that captives taken in warfare were sacrificed during important ceremonies. These sacrifices were not acts of cruelty, but religious rituals that the Maya believed were necessary to maintain the balance of the universe. Trade networks expanded to cover all of Mesoamerica and beyond. Maya merchants traded with cultures as far away as central Mexico and Costa Rica. They established trade routes that crossed mountains, rivers, and deserts, creating economic connections that linked diverse cultures. The Maya ball game reached its full development. Ball courts became larger and more elaborate, and the game took on even greater religious significance. Some ball games ended with the sacrifice of players. The game was believed to reenact the creation of the world and the journey of the sun through the underworld. Social stratification became more pronounced. Maya society was now clearly divided into nobles, commoners, and slaves. Nobles lived in stone palaces and were buried with elaborate grave goods. Commoners lived in simple houses and worked as farmers or craftsmen. Slaves were usually captives taken in warfare. Warfare became more organized and systematic. Maya rulers began to conduct campaigns to capture territory and tribute rather than simply raiding for captives. They developed new weapons and tactics, including obsidian-edged clubs and spear throwers. Fortifications became more common. The first true Maya cities emerged during this time. Places like Camanaljuyu in Guatemala and Cerros in Belize became major population centers with thousands of residents. These cities included pyramidal temples, royal palaces, ball courts, markets, and residential neighborhoods. Mathematics advanced to include the concept of zero, one of the most important intellectual achievements in human history. The Maya were one of only a few cultures to discover this concept independently. Their mathematical system allowed them to perform complex calculations. The foundation is complete. By 250 CE, Maya civilization had developed all the fundamental elements that would make it one of the world's greatest cultures. The late pre-classic period had seen the perfection of writing, mathematics, astronomy, monumental architecture, and complex political systems. The stage was now set for the classic period, when Maya civilization would reach unprecedented heights. The transition from pre-classic to classic was gradual but unmistakable. Cities grew larger and more complex. Rulers became more powerful and ambitious. Art and architecture reached new levels of sophistication. The pace of innovation accelerated as Maya civilization entered its golden age. The legacy of the pre-classic period was enormous. Every major achievement of later Maya civilization had its roots in these early centuries. The calendar system, writing, mathematics, astronomy, art, architecture, religion, and political organization all reached mature form during the pre-classic period. Climate patterns during this time were generally favorable for Maya civilization. Rainfall was adequate for agriculture, and there were no major droughts that might have disrupted the steady growth of Maya society. This climatic stability allowed populations to grow and cities to expand. The Maya worldview had reached full maturity by the end of the pre-classic period. The Maya saw themselves as living in a universe governed by cyclical time, where past, present, and future were all connected. They believed that human actions could influence cosmic forces and that proper ritual behavior was essential for maintaining universal balance. Kings were now seen as divine rulers who served as intermediaries between human and supernatural worlds. They were responsible not only for governing their people, but also for maintaining cosmic order through proper performance of religious ceremonies. This concept of divine kingship would remain central to Maya political organization for centuries. The educational system that would train scribes, priests, and administrators had developed during the pre-classic period. Young nobles learned to read and write hieroglyphs, to calculate calendar dates, to perform religious ceremonies, and to administer complex political systems. This educational tradition ensured that Maya civilization could maintain its sophisticated culture across many generations. Economic systems had become increasingly complex. Trade networks connected Maya cities with cultures throughout Mesoamerica and beyond. Specialized craft production supplied both local needs and long-distance trade. Agricultural techniques had advanced to support large urban populations while maintaining sustainable relationships with the tropical environment. The artistic traditions that would produce the masterpieces of classic Maya art had reached full maturity. Maya artists had developed distinctive styles and techniques that would remain consistent for centuries. They had mastered the use of color, form, and composition to create works of lasting beauty. Military traditions and technologies had also reached a high level of sophistication. Maya warriors used obsidian-edged weapons, protective cotton armor, and sophisticated tactical formations. Fortifications protected important cities, and military engineering allowed armies to conduct campaigns across difficult terrain. As the pre-classic period drew to a close, Maya civilization stood ready to enter its greatest era. The foundations had been laid with remarkable thoroughness and skill. The next 7 centuries would see the construction of cities that rivaled any in the ancient world, the creation of art that still takes our breath away, and the development of scientific knowledge that would not be equaled in some areas until modern times. The pre-classic Maya had created something unprecedented in human history, a civilization of extraordinary sophistication that was perfectly adapted to life in the tropical rainforest. They had learned to thrive in an environment that many other cultures found challenging, turning the obstacles of the jungle into advantages. The knowledge systems developed during the pre-classic period would prove remarkably durable. Maya calendar calculations, astronomical observations, mathematical concepts, and engineering techniques would continue to be used with little change for centuries to come. The social and political institutions created during the pre-classic period provided the framework for governing increasingly complex societies. The Maya had learned to organize large populations, coordinate massive construction projects, manage extensive trade networks, and maintain political stability across vast territories. The religious and philosophical traditions that emerged during the pre-classic period gave the Maya a coherent worldview that could provide meaning and purpose to individual lives, while explaining the workings of the cosmos. These beliefs would continue to evolve during later periods, but their fundamental structure had been established. As you drift peacefully towards sleep, imagine the Maya priests of the late pre-classic period, standing atop their great pyramids, observing the movements of celestial bodies with remarkable precision. They were calculating dates thousands of years in the future, recording the cycles of Venus and the phases of the moon, and using this knowledge to guide their people. These ancient astronomers understood something that we sometimes forget in our modern world, that human beings are part of a larger cosmic order, and that our lives are connected to the movements of planets and stars. The Maya never lost sight of this fundamental truth, and it gave their civilization a sense of purpose and meaning. The gentle rhythm of Maya life during the pre-classic period was like a slow river flowing through the centuries, carrying a remarkable people toward their destiny. Farmers continued to plant their crops according to the ancient calendar. Children learned the traditional stories that connected them to their ancestors. Artists created beautiful objects that celebrated the gods. Priests performed the ceremonies that maintained cosmic balance. This was the foundation upon which one of humanity's greatest civilizations would be built. In the centuries that lay ahead, Maya scribes would write thousands of books. Maya architects would create buildings that seemed to touch the sky. Maya mathematicians would make calculations of stunning complexity. Maya artists would create works of beauty that still inspire wonder after more than 1,000 years. But it all began here, in these quiet centuries, when simple farmers first looked up at the stars and wondered about their place in the infinite cosmos. The pre-classic Maya showed us that with patience, observation, and dedication, human beings can understand the deepest mysteries of existence and create beauty that will inspire people across thousands of years. As sleep carries you away tonight, rest peacefully in the knowledge that human creativity and determination can indeed build wonders that last for millennia. The Maya showed us that even in the most challenging environments, with the simplest tools, human beings can create civilizations of extraordinary beauty and sophistication. Sleep gently, knowing that you are part of the same cosmic dance that inspired Maya achievements. The stars that guided Maya astronomers still shine above us. The mathematical principles they discovered still govern our universe. And the artistic beauty they created still has the power to move our hearts across the centuries. The classic period, Maya Golden Age. Dawn breaks over the ancient city of Tikal. The morning mist rises from the jungle, revealing the silhouettes of towering pyramids. We have now entered the classic period, the golden age of Maya civilization. This was when everything that had been developing for over 2,000 years would reach its full flowering. The classic period lasted from 250 to 900 CE. During these 6.5 centuries, Maya cities grew to enormous sizes. Maya kings ruled vast territories. Maya culture influenced much of Mesoamerica. This was when the great cities of Tikal, Palenque, Copan, and Calakmul dominated the landscape. The transition into the classic period was gradual. Around 250 CE, Maya rulers began to erect dated monuments recording their achievements in stone. The practice of carving long-count dates on stelae became common throughout the Maya world. These monuments mark the beginning of what archaeologists call the classic period. The early classic period from 250 to 600 CE saw the establishment of the great dynasties that would dominate Maya politics for centuries. Powerful rulers founded royal lineages that traced their ancestry back to the gods themselves. These kings built magnificent palaces and temples, conducted elaborate ceremonies, and waged wars against their neighbors. The rise of great cities. During the Classic period, Maya cities grew to unprecedented sizes. Tikal, in the heart of the Petun rainforest, became one of the largest cities in the pre-Columbian Americas. At its peak, Tikal covered over 575 square kilometers and housed between 60,000 and 100,000 people. The city's 6 great pyramids dominated the landscape, the tallest rising over 65 meters above the jungle floor. Tikal was not just a city, but the capital of a powerful kingdom that controlled trade routes and tributary cities across a vast region. The rulers of Tikal, known by names like Jaso Chan Kawale and Nun Ujol Chak, commanded armies, controlled trade networks, and patronized the arts and sciences. Palenque, in the western Maya region, became famous for its beautiful architecture and sophisticated art. The Temple of Inscriptions at Palenque contains one of the longest hieroglyphic texts ever discovered, recording the history of the city's ruling dynasty. The palace complex at Palenque featured an unusual 4-story tower that may have served as an astronomical observatory. The most famous ruler of Palenque was Kanich Janab Pakal, who reigned for 68 years from 615 to 683 CE. Pakal's tomb, discovered deep inside the Temple of Inscriptions, contained one of the richest burials ever found in the Maya world. His jade funeral mask and elaborate sarcophagus demonstrate the wealth and artistic sophistication of classic Maya royal culture. Copan, located in what is now Honduras, became the southern capital of Maya learning and culture. The rulers of Copan were great patrons of astronomy and mathematics. The city's hieroglyphic stairway contains over 2,000 hieroglyphic blocks, making it one of the longest Maya texts ever created. Copan was also famous for its sculpture, particularly the elaborate stelae that portrayed rulers in magnificent detail. Calakmul, in the northern Petun, emerged as Tikal's greatest rival during the Classic period. The two superpowers fought a series of wars that lasted for centuries, with each city trying to dominate the others and control the lucrative trade routes that crisscrossed the Maya world. These conflicts, recorded in hieroglyphic inscriptions, provide us with detailed accounts of classic Maya warfare and politics. Political organization and warfare. Classic Maya society was organized around powerful city-states ruled by divine kings called Kohulaja, meaning holy lords. These rulers claimed descent from the gods and served as intermediaries between the human and supernatural worlds. They lived in magnificent palaces, wore elaborate costumes, decorated with jade and feathers, and were buried in rich tombs. Below the king was a complex hierarchy of nobles, priests, warriors, and administrators. The royal court included scribes, who kept detailed records, astronomers who calculated calendar dates, architects who designed buildings, and artists who created beautiful works of art. These specialists formed the intellectual elite of Maya society. Warfare played a crucial role in classic Maya politics. Maya cities constantly fought against their neighbors to capture territory, control trade routes, and take prisoners for sacrifice. Wars were often timed to coincide with important astronomical events, and victory was seen as confirmation of a ruler's divine favor. Maya warfare was highly ritualized and followed specific rules and conventions. The goal was not necessarily to destroy the enemy, but to capture high-ranking prisoners who could be sacrificed in elaborate ceremonies. These captives were often portrayed on monuments, showing them bound and humiliated before their captors. The weapons used by Maya warriors included obsidian-edged clubs, spears, darts thrown with atlatls, and shields decorated with religious symbols. Warriors wore cotton armor that was effective against obsidian weapons, and elaborate headdresses that showed their rank and achievements. Fortifications became increasingly important during the Classic period as warfare intensified. Cities built defensive walls, moats, and other barriers to protect against enemy attacks. Some cities, like Beken, were almost completely surrounded by elaborate fortification systems. Art and architecture. The Classic period witnessed the greatest achievements in Maya art and architecture. Maya artists and architects developed a distinctive style that combined religious symbolism with aesthetic beauty. Their works decorated temples, palaces, and public spaces throughout the Maya world. Maya architecture during the Classic period was characterized by the use of limestone blocks, fitted together without mortar, creating structures that have survived for over 1,000 years. Maya builders developed the corbel arch, which allowed them to create interior spaces and doorways. They mastered the technique of creating tall, stable pyramids by building them in successive stages. The pyramids of the Classic period were not just monuments, but active religious centers where priests performed ceremonies for the gods. Many pyramids contained elaborate tombs where rulers were buried with rich grave goods. The Temple of Inscriptions at Palenque and Temple the Fort at Tikal are famous examples of pyramid tombs. Maya palaces were complex multi-story buildings that served as residences for rulers and their courts. These structures included throne rooms, private apartments, administrative offices, and courtyards where ceremonies were held. The palace at Palenque is one of the best preserved examples. Stone sculpture reached new heights during the Classic period. Maya sculptors created elaborate stelae that portrayed rulers in full ceremonial dress, recording their achievements in hieroglyphic texts. These monuments were erected to commemorate important dates like royal accessions, military victories, and calendar endings. Relief sculpture decorated many buildings with scenes from Maya mythology and history. The murals at Bonampak show warriors in battle and captives being presented to the ruler. The reliefs at Yaxchilan depict royal bloodletting ceremonies and communication with supernatural beings. Maya painting reached extraordinary levels of sophistication during the Classic period. The murals at Bonampak, painted around 790 CE, show scenes of warfare, ceremony, and court life with incredible detail. The painters used sophisticated techniques to create the illusion of depth and movement. Ceramic art also flourished during the Classic period. Maya potters created elaborate vessels decorated with mythological scenes, court ceremonies, and portraits of rulers and gods. These ceramics were often buried with the dead and provide important information about Maya beliefs concerning the afterlife. Writing and literature. The Classic period saw the full development of Maya writing and literature. Maya scribes created thousands of texts on stone monuments, building walls, portable objects, and bark paper books. These texts recorded everything from historical events to astronomical calculations to religious prophecies. Maya writing was a complex system that combined logographic symbols representing whole words with phonetic symbols representing sounds. Skilled scribes could write anything that could be spoken in the Maya language, making this one of the most complete writing systems ever developed in the pre-Columbian Americas. The longest Maya texts were carved on stone monuments and building walls. The hieroglyphic stairway at Copan contains over 2,000 glyphs recording the history of the city's ruling dynasty. The Temple of Inscriptions at Palenque contains a long text describing the life and achievements of the ruler Pakal. Maya scribes also wrote on bark paper books called codices. Unfortunately, only 4 of these books have survived to the present day, but Spanish accounts describe libraries containing thousands of Maya books. These codices contained astronomical tables, ritual calendars, religious texts, and historical records. The content of Maya texts reveals a sophisticated literary tradition that included historical narratives, mythological stories, astronomical treatises, and ritual instructions. Maya writers had developed conventions for different types of texts and could compose works in a variety of styles. Maya scribes held high status in classic society and were often members of royal families or high-ranking nobles. They underwent years of training to master the complex writing system and were responsible not only for creating texts, but also for maintaining and copying existing works. Science and astronomy. Classic Maya astronomy reached levels of sophistication that would not be equaled in Europe until the Renaissance. Maya astronomers made detailed observations of the sun, moon, planets, and stars, recording their findings in texts that demonstrate remarkable accuracy and mathematical sophistication. The Maya developed multiple calendar systems that worked together to track different aspects of time. The solar calendar of 365 days was used for agricultural purposes and consisted of 18 months of 20 days each, plus 5 extra days. The sacred calendar of 260 days was used for religious purposes and combined a cycle of 13 numbers with a cycle of 20-day names. The long count calendar was the Maya's most sophisticated temporal system, capable of recording dates over periods of millions of years. This calendar was based on cycles within cycles, with each level containing 20 times more units than the level below it. Maya mathematicians developed one of the most advanced number systems in the ancient world. They used a vigesimal base 20 system with positional notation, and they independently discovered the concept of zero. This mathematical sophistication allowed them to perform complex calculations. Venus was of particular importance to the Maya, who tracked its cycles with extraordinary precision. They determined that Venus has a synodic period of 584 days and could predict when it would appear as the morning or evening star. Venus observations were used to time military campaigns, royal ceremonies, and other important events. Eclipse prediction was another area of Maya astronomical expertise. They developed tables that could predict both solar and lunar eclipses decades in advance. These predictions were crucial for religious purposes, as eclipses were seen as dangerous times when the cosmic order was threatened. The Maya also made detailed observations of star patterns and created constellation maps that guided both terrestrial and celestial navigation. They identified the Milky Way with the world tree, a cosmic axis that connected the earthly realm with the heavens and underworld. Trade and economy. The classic period witnessed the expansion of Maya trade networks to cover vast areas of Mesoamerica and beyond. Maya merchants established routes that connected highland and lowland regions, the Pacific and Atlantic coasts, and the Maya heartland with distant cultures. Obsidian was one of the most important trade goods in the Maya economy. This volcanic glass was quarried at sources in the Guatemala highlands and traded throughout the Maya world. Obsidian was used to make cutting tools, weapons, and ritual objects that were essential for daily life and religious ceremonies. Jade was even more valuable than obsidian and was considered the most precious material in Maya culture. Jade was associated with water, vegetation, and life itself, and it was used to make jewelry, ritual objects, and funeral masks for rulers. The Maya obtained jade from sources in the Motagua Valley of Guatemala. Cacao beans served as a form of currency in Maya markets and were also consumed as a sacred drink by the nobility. Cacao was grown in the tropical lowlands and traded to highland cities where it could not be cultivated. The Maya developed elaborate rituals around cacao consumption. Salt was another crucial trade commodity that was produced in coastal areas and traded inland. The Maya developed sophisticated techniques for salt production, including the construction of salt works and the use of specialized pottery for evaporating seawater. Feathers from tropical birds were highly prized for their beauty and symbolic significance. Quetzal feathers were particularly valuable and were reserved for the most important rulers and ceremonies. Maya traders traveled great distances to obtain exotic feathers. Markets were important centers of economic and social activity in Maya cities. Large marketplaces adjacent to ceremonial centers hosted merchants from distant regions and provided opportunities for people to exchange goods, news, and ideas. The Maya economy was based on both subsistence agriculture and specialized craft production. Most Maya were farmers who grew maize, beans, squash, and other crops using sophisticated agricultural techniques. Specialized craftsmen produced goods for local use and long-distance trade. Religion and mythology. Classic Maya religion was a complex system of beliefs that pervaded every aspect of life. The Maya saw the universe as alive with supernatural forces that needed to be honored and appeased through proper ritual behavior. Their religion included hundreds of gods and goddesses, elaborate creation myths, and sophisticated concepts about the nature of existence and the afterlife. The Maya cosmos was conceived as having 3 levels: the heavens above, the earthly realm in the middle, and the underworld below. These levels were connected by the world tree, a cosmic axis that allowed communication between different realms. The center of the universe was marked by the ceiba tree, which was considered sacred. Maya creation mythology told the story of how the gods created the world and human beings through a series of attempts. The most famous version of this myth is preserved in the Popol Vuh, a text written in the colonial period, but based on much older traditions. According to this myth, the gods first created beings of mud, then of wood, and finally of maize dough. The hero twins, Hunahpu and Xbalanque, were central figures in Maya mythology. These legendary brothers journeyed to the underworld, defeated the lords of death, and were transformed into the sun and moon. Their adventures served as models for Maya rulers and demonstrated the triumph of life over death. Blood sacrifice was fundamental to Maya religion. The Maya believed that the gods had sacrificed their own blood to create human beings, and humans needed to reciprocate by offering their blood to the gods. Rulers performed elaborate bloodletting ceremonies in which they pierced their tongues and other body parts with obsidian blades. Human sacrifice was also practiced particularly of high-ranking captives taken in warfare. These sacrifices were not acts of cruelty, but religious rituals that the Maya believed were necessary to maintain cosmic balance. The most important sacrifices coincided with major calendar events. Maya rulers served as intermediaries between the human and divine worlds. They were believed to be descended from the gods and to possess supernatural powers. Royal bloodletting ceremonies were thought to open portals to the spirit world and allow communication with deceased ancestors and deities. The Maya believed in multiple souls and a complex afterlife. After death, souls journeyed through the underworld, facing various challenges and tests. Some souls were reborn, others became ancestors who could influence the living, and the most successful reached the realm of the gods. Maya priests were responsible for maintaining the calendar, predicting astronomical events, and performing the rituals that kept the universe in balance. They underwent years of training in reading and writing, mathematics, astronomy, and ritual procedures. Religious festivals were important events that brought communities together and reinforced social bonds. These festivals were timed according to the calendar and often coincided with astronomical events like solstices and equinoxes. Daily life in classic Maya cities. Life in classic Maya cities was complex and varied, depending on one's social position. The nobility lived in stone palaces near the ceremonial centers, while commoners lived in simple houses on the outskirts of cities. Despite these differences, all Maya participated in the cultural and religious life of their communities. Noble families lived in elaborate compounds that included multiple buildings arranged around courtyards. These palaces featured throne rooms where rulers held court, private apartments for family members, administrative offices, and storage areas. The walls were often decorated with murals and relief sculptures, showing mythological scenes and historical events. Commoners lived in simple houses built of wood and thatch, raised on low stone platforms. These houses typically included a main room for sleeping and storage, a kitchen area with a hearth, and sometimes additional rooms for specific activities. Extended families often lived in compounds of several houses arranged around a shared courtyard. Maya diet was based on the cultivation of maize, beans, and squash, supplemented by hunting, fishing, and gathering wild plants. Maize was prepared in many different ways, including tortillas, tamales, gruel, and fermented beverages. The Maya also cultivated avocados, tomatoes, chili peppers, and cacao. Elite individuals had access to more varied diets that included exotic foods obtained through trade. Clothing varied according to social status and gender. Common people wore simple cotton garments, while the nobility dressed in elaborate costumes decorated with jade, feathers, and other precious materials. Women wore long skirts and short tops, while men wore loincloths and capes. Elaborate headdresses were important symbols of rank and were worn during ceremonies and public appearances. Children began learning their social roles from an early age. Boys from noble families attended schools where they learned to read and write, perform religious ceremonies, and administer political affairs. Girls learned domestic skills and religious practices from their mothers and female relatives. All children learned the basic cultural knowledge that would enable them to participate in Maya society. Craft specialization was important in Maya cities. Skilled artisans produced pottery, textiles, stone tools, jewelry, and other goods for both local use and long-distance trade. These craftsmen often worked in specific neighborhoods and passed their skills down through family lines. The most skilled artisans worked for the royal court and created the finest works of Maya art. The Late Classic Period, 600 to 900 CE. The Late Classic Period marked both the greatest achievements and the beginning of the decline of Maya civilization. During these 3 centuries, Maya cities reached their largest sizes. Maya art and architecture achieved their finest expression, and Maya science made its greatest discoveries. However, this was also the time when internal conflicts intensified and environmental problems began to threaten the stability of Maya society. Population growth during the Late Classic Period was extraordinary. Tikal may have housed over 100,000 people, making it one of the largest cities in the world at that time. This population growth was supported by intensive agricultural techniques, including terraced farming, raised fields and wetlands, and sophisticated water management systems. Competition between Maya cities intensified during the Late Classic Period. The rivalry between Tikal and Calakmul dominated Maya politics for centuries, with each superpower trying to control smaller cities and trade routes. These conflicts are recorded in hieroglyphic inscriptions that provide detailed accounts of battles, alliances, and political intrigue. Art and architecture reached their finest expression during the Late Classic Period. The sculptures at Copan achieved unprecedented realism and artistic sophistication. The murals at Bonampak depicted court ceremonies and warfare with incredible detail. The architectural complexes at Palenque demonstrated perfect integration of form and function. However, signs of stress began to appear in the Late Classic Period. Population pressure led to deforestation and soil erosion in some areas. Climate data suggests that the region experienced several severe droughts that would have stressed agricultural systems. Warfare became more frequent and destructive as cities competed for control of diminishing resources. Social inequality increased during the Late Classic Period. The gap between nobles and commoners widened as elite families accumulated more wealth and power. Royal burials became increasingly elaborate, while evidence suggests that nutrition among commoners may have declined. This growing inequality may have created social tensions that contributed to the eventual collapse of classic Maya civilization. Despite these problems, the Late Classic Period saw remarkable intellectual achievements. Maya astronomers refined their calendar calculations and created increasingly sophisticated astronomical tables. Maya mathematicians performed complex calculations that allowed them to predict eclipses and planetary positions with extraordinary accuracy. Maya scribes produced their longest and most complex literary works. Environmental challenges and adaptation. The Maya lived in a challenging tropical environment that required sophisticated adaptation strategies. The Yucatan Peninsula has no surface rivers, so the Maya had to develop complex water management systems to collect and store rainwater. They built elaborate reservoirs, canals, and underground storage systems that allowed their cities to survive both droughts and floods. Deforestation became a serious problem as Maya populations grew and cities expanded. The construction of massive stone monuments required huge amounts of limestone that had to be heated in kilns fueled by wood. This process consumed enormous quantities of forest resources and may have contributed to environmental degradation around major cities. Soil erosion was another challenge that the Maya faced as they cleared forests for agriculture. They developed sophisticated techniques for soil conservation, including terracing, check dams, and forest gardens that helped maintain fertility. However, in some areas, intensive agriculture may have led to soil depletion that could not be easily reversed. Climate variability was a constant challenge for Maya farmers. The region experiences pronounced wet and dry seasons, and periodic droughts could devastate crops. The Maya developed drought-resistant varieties of maize and created storage systems that allowed them to survive bad years. However, prolonged droughts could overwhelm even these adaptive strategies. The Maya also had to deal with tropical diseases, insect pests, and hurricanes that could destroy crops and buildings. They developed medicinal practices based on plants and minerals found in their environment and created architectural techniques that allowed buildings to survive severe storms. Despite these challenges, the Maya successfully adapted to their environment for over 1,000 years. Their agricultural techniques were sustainable when used properly, and their cities were designed to work with natural systems rather than against them. The eventual collapse of classic Maya civilization was likely due to a combination of environmental stress, social conflict, and external pressures rather than any single cause. The end of the classic period. By 900 CE, the great cities of the classic Maya world had begun to decline. The causes of this collapse are still debated by scholars, but it appears to have resulted from a combination of environmental, social, and political factors that overwhelmed the adaptive capacity of Maya civilization. Prolonged droughts during the 9th century put severe stress on Maya agricultural systems. Tree ring data and lake sediment cores indicate that this was one of the most severe drought periods in the region's history. Cities that had grown to enormous sizes could not feed their populations when crops failed year after year. Warfare intensified as cities competed for control of diminishing resources. The hieroglyphic record shows increasing evidence of conflict during the late classic period, with cities raiding their neighbors and disrupting trade networks. This warfare was more destructive than earlier conflicts and may have contributed to the breakdown of political systems. Social inequality reached extreme levels by the end of the classic period. Elite families continued to live in luxury, while evidence suggests that common people faced malnutrition and disease. This inequality may have led to social unrest that undermined the authority of rulers and contributed to political instability. Environmental degradation around major cities may have made them unsustainable. Deforestation, soil erosion, and water pollution could have created conditions where cities could no longer support large populations. Archaeological evidence suggests that some cities were abandoned gradually as people moved to more sustainable locations. The collapse was not sudden or complete. Some cities continued to thrive after 900 CE, particularly in the northern Yucatan. The Maya people did not disappear, but adapted to changing conditions by developing new forms of social organization and new relationships with their environment. What ended was not Maya civilization, but the particular form it had taken during the classic period. The legacy of the classic period was enormous. The achievements of classic Maya civilization in art, architecture, science, and literature would influence later cultures throughout Mesoamerica. The knowledge systems developed during this period would be preserved and transmitted to future generations, ensuring that Maya intellectual traditions would survive even the collapse of their great cities. As we drift towards sleep tonight, we can imagine the last priests of the classic period standing atop their great pyramids, looking out over cities that had once housed hundreds of thousands of people. They could not have known that their civilization was entering a time of transformation, that the great cities would soon be reclaimed by the jungle, and that future generations would look back on their age as a golden time of achievement and wonder. The classic period shows us both the heights that human civilization can reach and the challenges that all societies must face. The Maya created works of lasting beauty, developed sophisticated knowledge systems, and built cities that rivaled any in the ancient world. Their achievements remind us of the incredible potential of human creativity and cooperation. But the classic period also teaches us about the importance of balance between human needs and environmental limits, between individual ambition and social cooperation, between present desires and future sustainability. The Maya succeeded for centuries by maintaining these balances, and their eventual difficulties arose when these balances were lost. Sleep peacefully tonight, carried by the gentle rhythm of time that connects us to these ancient achievements. The stars that guided Maya astronomers still shine above us. The mathematical principles they discovered still govern our universe, and the artistic beauty they created still has the power to move our hearts across the centuries. The post-classic period, change and survival. The morning sun rises over the ancient ruins of Chichen Itza. Its rays light up the Great Pyramid of Kukulkan, casting shadows that mark the passage of time with the same accuracy that Maya astronomers calculated over 1,000 years ago. We have now entered the post-classic period, a time when Maya civilization transformed itself while preserving the wisdom of their ancestors. The post-classic period lasted from 900 to 1542 CE. This was not a time of decline but of change and adaptation. While the great cities of the classic period were gradually abandoned, new centers of power emerged in different regions. The Maya people continued to thrive, developing new forms of political organization, new trading relationships, and new ways of expressing their ancient cultural traditions. The transition from the classic to the post-classic period was gradual and varied across different regions. In the southern lowlands, where cities like Tikal and Palenque had dominated for centuries, many urban centers were abandoned between 800 and 900 CE. However, in the northern Yucatan, cities like Chichen Itza were entering their greatest period of prosperity and influence. This transformation was not a collapse, but a reorganization of Maya civilization. The highly centralized kingdoms of the classic period gave way to more flexible forms of political organization. Trade networks shifted to favor coastal routes over overland paths. New architectural styles emerged that combined Maya traditions with influences from other cultures. The Maya adapted to changing conditions while maintaining their essential cultural identity. The early post-classic period. The early post-classic period was dominated by the rise of Chichen Itza, which became the most powerful city in the Maya world. Located in the northern Yucatan Peninsula, Chichen Itza controlled trade routes between the Maya heartland and central Mexico. The city's rulers established political and economic relationships that extended far beyond the traditional boundaries of Maya civilization. Chichen Itza was unlike the cities of the classic period in several important ways. Instead of being ruled by a single divine king, the city appears to have been governed by a council of nobles who shared power among themselves. This new form of political organization was more flexible and may have been better adapted to the changing conditions of the post-classic world. The architecture of Chichen Itza reflected these new political arrangements and cultural influences. The Great Pyramid, known as El Castillo, or the Temple of Kukulkan, incorporated astronomical alignments that demonstrated the continuing importance of Maya scientific knowledge. During the spring and autumn equinoxes, shadows on the pyramid's steps create the illusion of a feathered serpent descending from the heavens to earth. The Great Ball Court at Chichen Itza was the largest ever built in Mesoamerica, measuring over 150 meters in length. The ball game continued to hold deep religious significance, but it also became a way of resolving political disputes and cementing alliances between different groups. The acoustics of the court were designed so that a whisper at one end could be heard clearly at the other. Trade became even more important during the post-classic period than it had been before. Chichen Itza controlled the salt production facilities along the northern coast of Yucatan, and salt became one of the most valuable commodities in Mesoamerican trade. The city also controlled the trade in cacao, jade, obsidian, and other luxury goods. Maritime trade expanded significantly during this period. Maya merchants used large seagoing canoes to transport goods along the coast from the Yucatan Peninsula to Honduras and beyond. These canoes could carry up to 40 people and several tons of cargo, making them efficient vehicles for long-distance commerce. Spanish explorers who encountered these vessels were impressed by their size and the skill of their navigators. The feathered serpent deity, known as Kukulkan, became increasingly important during the early post-classic period. This god, known as Quetzalcoatl in central Mexico, represented the integration of Maya religion with influences from other parts of Mesoamerica. Kukulkan was associated with trade, learning, and political authority, reflecting the changing priorities of post-classic Maya society. Astronomy and mathematics continued to be important during the post-classic period, though these sciences evolved to meet new needs. Maya astronomers created new calendar systems that were better adapted to agricultural and commercial cycles. They also developed new methods for predicting eclipses and planetary movements that were more practical for everyday use. The Toltec civilization of central Mexico had significant influence on early post-classic Maya culture. Some scholars believe that Toltec warriors or merchants established themselves at Chichen Itza and other Maya cities, bringing new ideas about warfare, politics, and religion. However, the Maya adapted these influences to their own cultural traditions, rather than simply adopting foreign practices wholesale. Art and architecture during the early post-classic period showed this blend of Maya and foreign influences. The Temple of the Warriors at Chichen Itza featured columns carved in the shape of feathered serpents, a motif that combined Maya artistic traditions with Toltec symbolism. Relief sculptures showed warriors from different cultures fighting alongside each other, suggesting the cosmopolitan nature of post-classic Maya society. Mayapan and the League of Cities. After the decline of Chichen Itza around 1200 CE, political power in the northern Yucatan shifted to Mayapan, which became the capital of a confederation known as the League of Mayapan. This political organization included dozens of Maya cities and towns, each governed by its own ruler, but united under the overall authority of Mayapan's council. Mayapan was a large city with a population of approximately 15,000 people, living within defensive walls that enclosed about 4 square kilometers. The city was laid out according to traditional Maya urban planning principles, with a ceremonial center surrounded by residential neighborhoods. However, the architecture was more modest than that of earlier Maya cities, reflecting the changed political and economic conditions of the late post-classic period. The League of Mayapan represented a new form of political organization that was more decentralized than the kingdoms of the classic period, but more unified than the city-states of the early post-classic. This system allowed for greater flexibility in responding to local conditions, while maintaining the cooperation necessary for defense and trade. The rulers of Mayapan were members of the Kokam family, who claimed descent from the rulers of Chichen Itza. However, they shared power with representatives from other noble families who governed subsidiary cities within the League. This power-sharing arrangement prevented any single ruler from becoming too powerful and helped maintain political stability for over 2 centuries. Trade continued to be the foundation of Mayapan's prosperity. The city controlled important trade routes and maintained commercial relationships with distant regions. Maya merchants from Mayapan traded with peoples as far away as central Mexico, lower Central America, and the Caribbean islands. These trade networks brought exotic goods to the Yucatan and carried Maya products to distant markets. The late post-classic period saw important innovations in Maya technology and economic organization. Maya farmers developed new agricultural techniques that were better adapted to the dry climate of the northern Yucatan. They created extensive systems of raised fields and water management that allowed them to grow crops even during drought years. Craft production became increasingly specialized during this period. Different cities and regions developed specialties in particular types of goods. Coastal communities focused on salt production and fishing. Interior cities concentrated on agriculture and craft manufacturing. This specialization increased the efficiency of production, but also made communities more dependent on trade. Religion during the late post-classic period continued to center on traditional Maya deities, but there were important changes in religious practice. The elaborate state ceremonies of the classic period gave way to more diverse forms of religious expression. Local communities developed their own religious traditions while maintaining connections to broader Maya cultural patterns. Human sacrifice continued to be practiced, but it became more focused on specific rituals and occasions. The throwing of valuable objects and sometimes people into sacred cenotes became an important form of offering to the gods. The sacred cenote at Chichen Itza has yielded thousands of gold, jade, and copper objects, as well as human remains from these ceremonies. Writing remained important during the post-classic period, though it evolved to serve new purposes. Maya scribes created new types of texts that focused on practical matters, like trade agreements, tribute lists, and calendar calculations. The famous Maya codices that survive from this period include almanacs for farmers, merchants, and priests. The late post-classic period also saw the development of new artistic styles that reflected the changing cultural landscape. Maya artists incorporated motifs and techniques from other Mesoamerican cultures while maintaining distinctly Maya approaches to color, composition, and symbolism. Pottery from this period shows particularly creative blending of different artistic traditions. The arrival of Europeans The first contact between Maya civilization and European explorers occurred in 1502 when Christopher Columbus encountered a large Maya trading canoe off the coast of Honduras during his fourth voyage to the Americas. The Spanish were impressed by the size of the vessel and the quality of the goods it carried, including cacao beans, copper tools, textiles, and weapons. However, systematic European contact with the Maya did not begin until 1511, when a Spanish ship was wrecked off the coast of the Yucatan Peninsula. Two survivors, Geronimo de Aguilar and Gonzalo Guerrero, lived among the Maya for several years. Aguilar eventually rejoined Spanish society and served as a translator for later expeditions, while Guerrero married into Maya society and fought against the Spanish conquest. The first Spanish expedition to the Yucatan was led by Francisco Hernández de Córdoba in 1517. The Spanish encountered well-organized Maya cities, skilled warriors, and clear evidence of a sophisticated civilization. However, they also met fierce resistance from Maya forces, who recognized the threat that these foreigners represented to their way of life. Juan de Grijalva led a second expedition in 1518 that established more extensive contact with Maya communities along the coast. The Spanish were amazed by the wealth and sophistication of Maya cities, particularly the large stone buildings, elaborate art, and obvious evidence of literacy and astronomical knowledge. These early encounters convinced the Spanish that the Maya possessed resources and knowledge that would be valuable to European colonizers. The serious attempt at conquest began with Hernán Cortés. In 1519, though Cortés was more interested in the Aztec Empire of central Mexico than in Maya territory. However, his success against the Aztecs encouraged other Spanish conquistadors to attempt the conquest of Maya lands. Francisco de Montejo was granted permission to conquer the Yucatan in 1526. The Spanish conquest of Maya territory proved to be much more difficult than the conquest of the Aztec Empire. Unlike the Aztecs, who were organized under a single ruler who could be captured and replaced, the Maya were organized into numerous independent city-states that had to be conquered one by one. Maya resistance was fierce and persistent, and the Spanish encountered numerous setbacks and defeats. The first Montejo expedition, 1520, the Spanish established a few temporary settlements, but were unable to maintain control against sustained Maya resistance. The Maya used guerrilla tactics, knowledge of local terrain, and alliances between different cities to make Spanish occupation extremely costly and difficult. The second Montejo expedition, 1531-1535, had slightly more success, but also ultimately failed. The Spanish managed to establish the city of Campeche on the coast and maintain control of some coastal areas, but they were unable to penetrate into the interior or establish permanent control over Maya populations. It was not until the third Montejo expedition, led by Francisco de Montejo the Younger, 1540-1542, that the Spanish achieved significant success. Even then, the conquest was partial and left many Maya communities with considerable autonomy. The Spanish established the city of Mérida in 1542 on the site of the Maya city of Tijú, but Maya resistance continued for decades. The Spanish conquest succeeded, eventually not through military superiority alone, but through a combination of factors, including epidemic diseases, internal Maya conflicts, and Spanish ability to form alliances with some Maya groups against others. European diseases, like smallpox, typhus, and plague, devastated Maya populations who had no immunity to these illnesses. The demographic impact of European contact was catastrophic. Population estimates suggest that the Maya population declined by 80 to 90% during the first century after contact. Entire cities were abandoned, agricultural systems collapsed, and traditional social structures were severely disrupted. This population collapse was the most significant factor in the Spanish ability to establish colonial control. Maya resistance and cultural survival. Despite the devastating impact of conquest and colonization, Maya civilization did not disappear. Maya communities throughout the Yucatan and other regions maintained their cultural identity while adapting to colonial conditions. They preserved their languages, religious practices, agricultural techniques, and social organization, even while accepting Spanish political control and Catholic Christianity. Maya resistance to Spanish rule took many forms. Open rebellion occurred periodically. most notably the Great Maya Revolt of 1546-1547, which required several years for the Spanish to suppress. More commonly, Maya communities practiced passive resistance, maintaining traditional practices while outwardly conforming to Spanish expectations. Religious syncretism became an important strategy for cultural survival. Maya communities incorporated Catholic saints and ceremonies into their traditional religious calendar, while continuing to worship traditional Maya deities. Many Catholic saints were identified with Maya gods, and Catholic holidays were celebrated alongside traditional Maya festivals. The Chilambalam books represent one of the most important forms of cultural preservation during the colonial period. These texts, written in Maya language using the European alphabet, recorded traditional Maya history, prophecy, astronomy, and medicine. They served as vehicles for transmitting traditional knowledge to future generations despite Spanish efforts to suppress Maya literacy. Maya communities also preserved their traditional agricultural practices and maintained their connection to the land. The milpa system of rotating forest agriculture continued to be used in areas where Spanish colonization was less intensive. Traditional crops like maize, beans, and squash remained central to Maya diet and culture. Language preservation was perhaps the most important factor in Maya cultural survival. Although Spanish became the official language of government and commerce, Maya languages continued to be spoken in daily life. This linguistic continuity provided the foundation for the preservation of other aspects of Maya culture. Traditional crafts and artistic practices also survived the colonial period, though they were often modified to incorporate new materials and techniques introduced by the Spanish. Maya weavers continued to create textiles using traditional patterns and colors. Maya potters adapted their techniques to create new types of vessels for colonial markets, while maintaining traditional decorative motifs. The social organization of Maya communities showed remarkable resilience during the colonial period. Although the traditional nobility lost much of their political power, they often retained social prestige and served as intermediaries between Maya communities and Spanish authorities. Traditional forms of community governance continued to function at the local level. Maya astronomical and calendrical knowledge was partially preserved despite Spanish efforts to suppress what they considered pagan practices. Maya daykeepers continued to maintain the traditional 260-day calendar and to provide guidance for agricultural and ceremonial activities. This knowledge was passed down through oral tradition and through the Chilambalam books. The legacy of Maya civilization. As we reach the end of our journey through Maya history from the earliest settlements to the Spanish conquest, we can reflect on the extraordinary achievements of this remarkable civilization. For over 3,000 years, the Maya created and maintained one of the world's most sophisticated cultures, making fundamental contributions to human knowledge in astronomy, mathematics, writing, art, and architecture. The Maya developed one of only 4 or 5 fully independent writing systems in human history. Their hieroglyphic script was capable of recording any concept that could be expressed in spoken Maya language, making it one of the most complete writing systems ever created. The thousands of Maya texts that have survived provide us with detailed insights into their history, science, religion, and daily life. Maya mathematics was remarkably sophisticated, featuring the independent discovery of the concept of zero and the development of positional notation. Their vigesimal number system allowed them to perform complex calculations and to develop engineering techniques that enabled the construction of their massive monuments. Maya mathematical concepts influenced later Mesoamerican cultures and contributed to the development of astronomy throughout the region. Maya astronomy achieved levels of precision that were not equaled in Europe until the Renaissance. Their calendar calculations were more accurate than those used in Europe during the same period, and their predictions of eclipses and planetary movements demonstrated sophisticated understanding of celestial mechanics. Maya astronomical knowledge was both practical and theoretical, serving needs ranging from agricultural planning to religious ceremony. Maya architecture represents one of the great achievements of ancient American civilization. Without metal tools, wheeled vehicles, or large domesticated animals, Maya builders created monuments that have survived for over 1,000 years. Their understanding of engineering principles allowed them to construct stable pyramids, elaborate palaces, and complex urban centers that housed hundreds of thousands of people. Maya art achieved remarkable sophistication in sculpture, painting, ceramics, and other media. Maya artists developed distinctive styles that combined aesthetic beauty with complex symbolic meaning. Their works served not only as decoration, but as vehicles for communicating religious beliefs, historical events, and cultural values. Maya artistic traditions influenced cultures throughout Mesoamerica and continue to inspire contemporary artists. Maya agricultural techniques demonstrated sophisticated understanding of tropical ecology and sustainable land use. Their development of forest gardens, raised fields, and water management systems allowed them to support large populations while maintaining environmental balance. These techniques offer valuable lessons for contemporary efforts to achieve sustainable development in tropical regions. Maya political organization evolved over time to meet changing conditions while maintaining cultural continuity, from the simple village councils of the archaic period to the divine kingdoms of the classic era to the confederations of the post-classic period. Maya society demonstrated remarkable adaptability while preserving essential cultural values. Maya religion provided a framework for understanding the relationship between human beings and the natural world that emphasized balance, reciprocity, and respect for cosmic order. Their belief systems integrated practical knowledge about agriculture and astronomy with sophisticated philosophical concepts about the nature of existence and the afterlife. Perhaps most importantly, Maya civilization demonstrated the human capacity for creating meaning and beauty even in challenging circumstances. The Maya lived in a difficult tropical environment where survival required constant adaptation and cooperation. Yet they created not just a successful society, but a civilization of extraordinary beauty and sophistication that celebrated human creativity and cosmic wonder. The Maya showed us that human beings can understand the deepest mysteries of existence through careful observation, patient study, and dedication to learning. Their astronomers calculated the movements of planets with stunning accuracy. Their mathematicians developed concepts that are still fundamental to science today. Their artists created works that continue to move our hearts across the centuries. They also showed us the importance of maintaining balance between human ambition and environmental limits. The challenges that Maya civilization faced during its later periods offer important lessons about sustainability and the need to live in harmony with natural systems. Their successes and difficulties provide valuable insights for contemporary societies facing similar challenges. The story of Maya civilization is ultimately a story about human potential. It shows us what we can accomplish when we work together toward common goals, when we respect the natural world that sustains us, and when we never stop asking questions about the universe around us. The Maya created lasting beauty, developed sophisticated knowledge, and built communities that honored both human achievement and cosmic order. As you prepare to drift into peaceful sleep, carried by the gentle rhythm of this ancient story, consider the wisdom that Maya civilization offers to our modern world. The Maya understood that time moves in cycles, that everything is connected, and that human beings are part of a larger cosmic order that deserves our respect and understanding. They knew that true wealth lies not in the accumulation of material possessions, but in the creation of beauty, the pursuit of knowledge, and the maintenance of harmony between human communities and the natural world. Their greatest treasures were not gold or silver, but jade and feathers, cacao and books, mathematical concepts, and astronomical observations. The Maya believed that each day offers new opportunities for learning and growth, that every season brings its own gifts and challenges, and that the passage of time itself is sacred and worthy of careful attention. They created calendars not just to track dates, but to help people live in harmony with the rhythms of the universe. Sleep peacefully tonight, knowing that you are part of a story that began thousands of years ago and will continue long into the future. The Maya showed us that human beings can create lasting beauty, that we can understand profound truths, and that we can build civilizations that honor both human achievement and cosmic wonder. The gentle spirit of Maya civilization watches over your sleep connecting you to the great dance of existence that encompasses all beings across all time. Rest well in the knowledge that their eternal wisdom continues to guide us toward a deeper understanding of our place in the magnificent mystery of the universe. The Maya today, living heritage. The evening mist settles over the ancient temples of Tikal. The last rays of sunlight filter through the jungle canopy. We come to understand that the story of Maya civilization did not end with the Spanish conquest. Today, millions of Maya people continue to live throughout Guatemala, Mexico, Belize, Honduras, and El Salvador. They carry forward traditions that stretch back over 3,000 years while adapting to the challenges of the modern world. The Maya people of today are not museum pieces or remnants of the past, but living communities that maintain vibrant cultures while participating fully in contemporary society. They speak dozens of Maya languages, practice traditional agriculture alongside modern techniques, create art that honors ancient traditions while expressing contemporary concerns, and maintain spiritual practices that connect them to their ancestral wisdom. In the highlands of Guatemala, Maya farmers still plant their crops according to traditional calendars that track both solar and ritual cycles. They grow the same varieties of maize, beans, and squash that sustained their ancestors for millennia. Their agricultural practices incorporate knowledge about soil conservation, water management, and sustainable land use that was developed over centuries of careful observation and experimentation. Maya weavers continue to create textiles using patterns and techniques that have been passed down through countless generations. Each community has its own distinctive style of dress that identifies its members and connects them to their particular place and history. These textiles are not just clothing, but expressions of cultural identity, artistic achievement, and spiritual belief. Traditional Maya medicine remains an important part of healthcare in many communities. Maya healers use plants, minerals, and ritual practices to treat illnesses and maintain spiritual balance. This knowledge represents thousands of years of accumulated wisdom about the healing properties of tropical plants and the connections between physical and spiritual health. Maya languages continue to be spoken by millions of people throughout Mesoamerica. These languages preserve not just words, but entire ways of understanding the world. Maya concepts of time, space, community, and spirituality are embedded in the structure of these languages and continue to shape how Maya people think about their lives and their relationship to the universe. The traditional Maya calendar system is still maintained by daykeepers who continue the ancient practice of tracking the 260-day sacred calendar. These specialists provide guidance for important life events like marriages, naming ceremonies, and agricultural activities. They maintain the knowledge that allows communities to coordinate their activities with cosmic cycles and seasonal changes. Contemporary Maya artists create works that honor traditional styles and themes while addressing modern concerns. Maya painters, sculptors, and craftspeople draw inspiration from ancient art while expressing their experiences of contemporary life. Their work bridges past and present, showing how ancient wisdom can illuminate modern challenges. Maya political leaders work within national governments while advocating for indigenous rights and cultural preservation. They seek to protect traditional lands, languages, and practices while ensuring that Maya communities have access to education, healthcare, and economic opportunities. This political activism represents a continuation of the Maya tradition of adapting to changing circumstances while maintaining cultural integrity. Rediscovering the ancient Maya. The scientific study of ancient Maya civilization began in the 19th century when explorers like John Lloyd Stevens and Frederick Catherwood brought the ruins of Maya cities to the attention of the outside world. Their books and illustrations revealed the existence of a sophisticated ancient civilization in the Americas that challenged European assumptions about indigenous peoples. Archaeological excavations over the past 150 years have revealed the true extent and sophistication of Maya achievements. Excavations at sites like Tikal, Palenque, Copan, and Calakmul have uncovered magnificent architecture, elaborate burials, sophisticated art, and extensive written records that have revolutionized our understanding of Maya history and culture. The decipherment of Maya writing, largely accomplished in the late 20th century, has been one of the greatest intellectual achievements of modern archaeology. Scholars like Yuri Norosov, Tatiana Proskuryakov, and David Stewart cracked the code of Maya hieroglyphs, allowing us to read thousands of Maya texts and understand Maya history from their own perspective. This decipherment revealed that Maya texts recorded not just astronomical and ritual information, but detailed historical accounts of rulers, wars, alliances, and political events. We now know the names of Maya kings and queens, can follow the rise and fall of Maya dynasties, and understand the complex political relationships that shaped Maya civilization. Archaeological research has also revealed the sophisticated environmental knowledge of the ancient Maya. Studies of ancient agricultural systems have shown how the Maya managed forests, conserved soil, and maintained sustainable relationships with their environment for over 1,000 years. This research provides valuable insights for contemporary efforts to achieve sustainable development. Advances in technology have opened new frontiers in Maya research. Satellite imagery and LiDAR scanning have revealed the true extent of Maya cities and the sophisticated infrastructure that connected them. These technologies have discovered thousands of previously unknown Maya sites and have shown that Maya civilization was even larger and more complex than previously imagined. DNA studies of ancient and modern Maya populations have confirmed the continuity between ancient and contemporary Maya peoples. These studies show that modern Maya communities are the direct descendants of the ancient Maya and that their cultural traditions represent unbroken connections to the past. Climate research using tree rings, ice cores, and lake sediments has revealed the environmental challenges that Maya civilization faced and overcame. This research has shown how the Maya adapted to droughts, hurricanes, and other natural disasters while maintaining their cultural traditions and social organization. The Maya calendar and 2012. One of the most widely discussed aspects of Maya culture in recent years was the supposed end-of-the-world prediction for December 21st. This misunderstanding arose from misinterpretations of the Maya long count calendar and demonstrates both the continued fascination with Maya wisdom and the need for accurate understanding of Maya beliefs. The Maya long count calendar operates in cycles, with the largest commonly used cycle lasting approximately 5125 years. December 21st, 2012 marked the end of one such cycle and the beginning of another. For the Maya, this was not an apocalyptic event, but a moment of renewal and transformation, similar to our New Year's Day, but on a much grander scale. Maya daykeepers and spiritual leaders consistently explained that 2012 represented not an ending, but a transition into a new era of human development. They spoke of it as an opportunity for humanity to develop greater wisdom, compassion, and harmony with the natural world. The Maya understood cosmic cycles as opportunities for growth and renewal rather than sources of fear or destruction. The widespread misunderstanding of the Maya calendar reflected both the persistence of colonial stereotypes about indigenous peoples and the human tendency to project contemporary anxieties onto ancient wisdom. The Maya were portrayed as mystical prophets of doom rather than sophisticated scientists and philosophers who developed complex understandings of time and cosmic cycles. Contemporary Maya communities use the attention focused on 12 as an opportunity to educate the world about their actual beliefs and practices. They emphasize their roles as guardians of traditional knowledge about sustainable living, environmental protection, and spiritual wisdom that could benefit all humanity. The real Maya prophecies for this era focus not on destruction, but on the emergence of greater human consciousness and the development of more harmonious relationships between people and the natural world. Maya spiritual leaders speak of the need for humanity to rediscover ancient wisdom about living in balance with cosmic forces and environmental systems. Lessons from Maya civilization. As our journey through Maya history draws to a close, we can reflect on the profound lessons that Maya civilization offers to our contemporary world. The Maya demonstrated that human societies can achieve extraordinary sophistication while maintaining sustainable relationships with their environment. They showed us that scientific knowledge and spiritual wisdom can work together to create meaningful and fulfilling lives. The Maya understanding of time as cyclical rather than linear offers valuable perspectives on human existence and social change. Instead of seeing history as a straight line of progress, the Maya recognized that life moves in cycles of growth and renewal, challenge and recovery, creation and transformation. This understanding can help us navigate the difficulties of contemporary life with greater patience and wisdom. Maya emphasis on education and the preservation of knowledge demonstrates the importance of passing wisdom from one generation to the next. Maya scribes spent years learning to read and write so that they could preserve important information for future generations. Maya astronomers made calculations that allowed them to predict events centuries in the future. This long-term thinking contrasts sharply with the short-term focus that characterizes much of contemporary society. The Maya integration of art, science, and spirituality shows us that human knowledge works best when different ways of understanding are brought together rather than kept separate. Maya astronomers were also priests and artists. Maya mathematicians were also architects and poets. This integration created a holistic approach to knowledge that enriched all aspects of Maya culture. Maya agricultural practices demonstrate that human societies can support large populations while maintaining environmental health. Maya farmers developed techniques for forest management, soil conservation, and water harvesting that sustained their civilization for over 1,000 years. These practices offer valuable models for contemporary efforts to achieve food security while protecting environmental systems. The Maya emphasis on community cooperation shows us that individual achievement is most meaningful when it serves larger social goals. Maya cities were built through community effort. Maya knowledge was shared freely among different groups. Maya cultural traditions emphasized responsibility to family, community, and cosmos. Maya spiritual traditions remind us that human beings are part of a larger cosmic order that deserves our respect and understanding. The Maya never forgot that their lives were connected to the movements of planets and stars, the cycles of seasons, and the health of the natural world. This cosmic perspective gave their civilization a sense of purpose and meaning that sustained them through both triumph and adversity. The eternal wisdom, the most profound gift that Maya civilization offers to the modern world, is not any specific piece of knowledge, but a way of approaching life that honors both human creativity and cosmic wisdom. The Maya showed us that we can be both practical and spiritual, both scientific and artistic, both individual and communal. They demonstrated that true education involves not just learning facts, but developing wisdom, not just acquiring skills, but cultivating character. Maya students learned not just how to read and write, but how to live in harmony with natural cycles, how to contribute to community welfare, and how to maintain spiritual balance. The Maya understood that each person has unique gifts to offer and important roles to play in maintaining cosmic balance. They created social systems that allowed for both individual expression and community cooperation. They valued both competition and collaboration, recognizing that healthy societies need both dynamics to flourish. Maya concepts of time remind us that every moment is both unique and part of larger patterns. The Maya celebrated daily activities while understanding their connection to cosmic cycles. They honored individual lives while recognizing their place in the great story of existence that encompasses all beings across all time. The Maya belief in the importance of beauty shows us that aesthetic expression is not a luxury, but a necessity for human flourishing. Maya communities invested enormous resources in creating beautiful art, architecture, and ceremonies because they understood that beauty nourishes the human spirit and connects us to divine creative forces. Maya environmental wisdom teaches us that human prosperity and environmental health are not opposites but partners. The Maya achieved their greatest successes when they worked with natural systems rather than against them. Their difficulties arose when they lost this balance and pushed beyond environmental limits. Perhaps most importantly, the Maya never lost their sense of wonder about the universe. They continued to ask questions about the nature of existence, to search for patterns in natural phenomena, and to find new ways of expressing their understanding through art, science, and spiritual practice. Their curiosity and creativity remained vibrant throughout their long history. A gentle conclusion. As you prepare for sleep tonight, let the gentle wisdom of Maya civilization carry you peacefully into dreams. For over 3,000 years, the Maya created and maintained one of humanity's most remarkable civilizations. They built cities that touched the sky, developed knowledge that unlocked cosmic secrets, and created art that still moves our hearts across the centuries. The Maya showed us that human beings can achieve greatness through patience, observation, and dedication to learning. They demonstrated that we can understand the deepest mysteries of existence while maintaining humility before the vastness of the universe. They proved that we can create lasting beauty while living in harmony with the natural world. Their legacy lives on, not just in the magnificent ruins that dot the landscape of Mesoamerica, but in the continuing traditions of Maya communities today. It lives on in every person who seeks to understand the patterns that govern natural phenomena, who works to create beauty in the world, and who never stops wondering about their place in the cosmic order. The stars that guided Maya astronomers still shine above us tonight. The mathematical principles they discovered still govern our universe. The artistic beauty they created still has the power to inspire our imaginations. The wisdom they developed about living in harmony with natural cycles still offers guidance for our contemporary challenges. As sleep begins to embrace you, imagine yourself standing once again in the great plaza of Tikal as dawn breaks over the ancient pyramids. Feel the connection that binds you to all the generations of Maya people who stood in this same place, looked up at these same stars, and wondered about the same eternal mysteries that fascinate us today. You are part of their story, now connected to their achievements by the simple facts of sharing the same sky, breathing the same air, and participating in the same cosmic dance that encompasses all existence. Their patient wisdom speaks across the centuries, reminding us that we too can create lasting beauty, develop profound understanding, and contribute to the great human project of making meaning from existence. The Maya understood that each day offers new opportunities for learning and growth, that every season brings its own gifts and challenges, and that the passage of time itself is sacred and worthy of reverent attention. They created calendars not just to track dates, but to help people live in rhythm with the universe. Sleep peacefully tonight, knowing that you are cradled by the same cosmic forces that inspired Maya achievements. Let their gentle example encourage you to approach your own life with curiosity and creativity, with respect for natural wisdom, and with dedication to creating beauty and meaning in whatever circumstances you encounter. The Maya journey through time is complete, but their spirit lives on in everyone who seeks to understand rather than to conquer, who creates rather than destroys, who cooperates rather than dominates, and who never loses wonder at the magnificent mystery of existence itself. Sweet dreams await you, filled with visions of ancient wisdom and eternal beauty, of pyramids reaching toward the stars and hearts reaching toward understanding. The Maya have shown us the way to live with both feet on the earth and our minds open to the infinite possibilities of human achievement and cosmic wonder. Rest now in the knowledge that you are part of a story that began long before you were born and will continue long after you are gone. The Maya taught us that this story is not just about individual lives, but about the eternal dance of existence that connects all beings across all time in the magnificent, mysterious, and eternally creative universe we all share. Sleep gently, dream deeply, and wake tomorrow with the Maya gift of wonder renewed in your heart, ready to participate once again in the great adventure of being human in a cosmos full of beauty, mystery, and infinite possibility.